On August 2nd, 2016, Bitfinex reported one of the biggest cryptocurrency hacks of all time, a hack that crashed the entire crypto world like never before.
Breaking overnight, nearly 100,000 bitcoins have been stolen from exchange platform Bitfinex.
This is the largest seizure of cryptocurrency ever by U.S. law enforcement.
Hackers stole 1.2 million bitcoins, but in today's world, their value would be in billions of dollars. When this news spread, it immediately triggered panic among investors, and within hours, Bitcoin prices began to fall.
I logged into my account and noticed that my entire account had been drained. I was crying and sweating.
The word started spreading on social media quickly. Everyone was freaking out.
It was gut-wrenching. I had a panic attack.
Same old story. Some people were panicking, some were simply curious, and some were raising the same old question. But it's not one of those stories. This is the story of fake identities, Russian passports, and cringe rap videos. But how did this happen? Chapter 1. Blockchain. Imagine you hacked a bank, and now you have access to billions of dollars. Congratulations, you are now the richest person in your family. Now you can buy that island which you have marked on Google Maps, and can create your own NFL team. And now you will not feel inferior when someone asks,
"Well, what color is your spaghetti?"
Anyway, so with all these aspirations, you click the transfer button and billions of USD have been credited to your bank account. But within minutes, some special agents emerge from nowhere. Uh-oh, you're in trouble. They seize all your assets and you end up in federal prison, all because you neglected the power of blockchain. Even if you have access to big funds, digital transactions can always be tracked. In the early 2000s, there was a hacker named Deuce who was facing the same problem when he successfully hacked the First National Bank of Indiana. So basically, he had billions of dollars in front of him, but he couldn't cash out. So he contacted the godfather of the internet. Brett Johnson was one of the leading cyber criminals on the internet. But after getting arrested for an eBay scam, he started working as an undercover informant for the federal government. So, by contacting him, Deuce committed a serious mistake. As a result, in 2005, Secret Services identified Deuce as Eugene Lichtenstein, and he admitted that he was the one who hacked the National Bank of Indiana.
Eugene stated that he had moved to the United States from Russia approximately 13 years before. And he admitted to hacking into that Bank of Indiana, but he was never charged in anything because he immediately agreed to cooperate as an informant for the Secret Service.
So long story short, Eugene, aka Deuce, decided to quit hacking, and it turned out that he became a real estate agent. After all, he had a family to feed and a very smart kid whose future was still in his hands. Chapter 2. Shark in a Pond. Heather Morgan grew up in a tiny town of California, and the only word which could describe her was ambition.
Growing up, I did not have a lot of friends, and it was really hard because no one really believed in me, understood me, supported me. This principal, who was also my teacher, he told me, "Listen, you're a big fish in a small pond, but if you go to the ocean, you might drown." Okay, the ocean, yeah, it's big, but I'm a shark. I belong in the ocean, not in a mud puddle or a pond.
From day one, she wanted to escape and make a name for herself. She studied economics and international relations at the University of California, and by 2011, she made her way to Cairo, where she was trying to earn a master's degree in international economics. But it was the time when tech was booming, so she realized that to make a name, she needed to be part of the tech world in Silicon Valley. At that time, there was a group called 500 Startups. The idea was that these investors would invest in 500 different startups, hoping that at least one would become as successful as Facebook. And Heather desperately tried to be part of them.
She was not quite like everyone else. She kind of marched to the beat of her own drum, I suppose. She was always the center of attention. She thrived in that kind of environment.
And that's when she meets Ilya Lichtenstein.
So my name is Ilya Lichtenstein. I'm the co-founder of a startup called eccentric.
So MixedRank is a giant database of ads. We analyze hundreds of thousands of sites every day, pick up all of the ads on them, and try to figure out what the most effective ones are for any advertiser.
Heather met him at a conference, and she tweeted about his influence, which explains she was impressed by him. Now, if we consider the facts, Silicon Valley is a place where 95% of startups fail. But MixedRank was on its way to success. They were getting more clients, hiring new people, and expanding their business. But then suddenly, Ilya left the company and decided to settle with Heather in New York. So, the question is, why would someone leave all his work behind? Chapter 3: Crocodile of Wall Street. After moving to a luxury apartment in New York, Ilya created a new startup called EndPass, which was a kind of secured wallet for your cryptocurrency funds. But Heather had other plans. She started SalesFolk, became a columnist for Forbes and Inc., and even started educating others through various talks and summits. She was obsessed with being everything.
In the beginning, her signature said Heather Morgan, economist. At that point, that was kind of aspirational. The second 6 months, she added entrepreneur. The very final email I got from her in 2013, she was economist, entrepreneur, and hustler.
But this time, she took it to the next level when she decided to adopt an alter ego as Razzle Khan.
Razzle Khan, the Versace better win. Come real far, but don't know where I'm heading. Motherfucking Crocodile of Wall Street.
And instead of limiting herself to being just an economist and entrepreneur, she just expanded her list of occupations.
I'm many things. A rapper, an economist, a journalist, a writer, a CEO, and a dirty hoe.
Even though she was trying her luck in different industries, it was hard to believe they were able to produce these rap videos, and also the fact that they were living in a luxury apartment and traveling first class. But who was funding them? 4. The Hunt. Let's go back to the Bitfinex hack of 2016. For years, there was nothing. Nobody was moving the stolen Bitcoin. It just sat there. The value of Bitcoin was exploding though, and after 5 years, the stolen Bitcoins were already worth billions. And when you have this much wealth, it's hard not to use it. So, in 2021, the hackers made their move. They began shifting portions of their wealth into the dark web channels. Now remember, Deuce was not able to move the money because he knew that digital transactions would be tracked and he would end up in federal jail. But these hackers were smart. They used Alpha Bay to move these Bitcoins. Alpha Bay is basically the eBay of criminal goods and services. So suppose you have some stolen Bitcoins. You could throw them into a mixer like Alpha Bay, where they mix with other coins, and then you receive new coins that are not connected to any hack. So nobody could track the hackers because their transaction details are hidden behind the black hole of Alpha Bay, and that would be the dead end of all investigations. But then a news report changed everything.
Today, the Department of Justice announces the takedown of the dark web market Alpha Bay. This is the largest dark market web place takedown in world history.
Once Alpha Bay was taken down, Secret Services seized all its servers. There were billions of records, and by tracking the spider web of thousands of transactions, they identified that one of the accounts was tied to 2 people at 75 Wall Street. And these people were none other than Heather Morgan and Ilya Lichtenstein. At first, investigators thought they got the wrong guys because their media accounts were filled with rap videos.
Get icy like Froyo, all gotta stay vocal. Bitcoin, Ethereum, HODL. AMC, GameStop, YOLO.
Please, Jesus, I beg you, no more.
But soon they realized that there are many layers to this story. Heather had connections in Silicon Valley, and she was literally giving lectures on social engineering. In simple words, social engineering is the psychological manipulation of people into performing actions they would not normally do. In a way, it's a form of hacking, not of systems, but of human behavior. And during her talks, when Heather was asked about the ethical perspective, she gave an interesting response.
I have my own ethics, I will say.
These clues were already pointing to their involvement in the heist. Investigators also discovered that Heather and Ilya were involved in money laundering through fake shell companies. They had multiple fake employees who only existed on paper, and Heather and Ilya were paying them in Bitcoin. As a result, on February 8, 2022, Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan were arrested and charged with money laundering. When police raided their house, the findings were like a plot of a spy novel. Hollowed-out books created to conceal mobile phones, dozens of burner handsets, several USB sticks, and fake passports. In August 2023, both Ilya and Heather pleaded guilty to money laundering and conspiracy charges. Ilya admitted to hacking Bitfinex and was sentenced to 5 years in prison, while Heather received an 18-month sentence for her role in laundering the stolen funds. Some people also believe that Ilya is the son of Deuce and that the hack was a tribute to his father. However, Ilya has firmly denied these claims. But no matter what was the motive behind this theft, this case remains one of the most dramatic crypto heists in history. Ilya and Heather were caught and paid the price for their Bitcoin heist. But one man may have stolen millions and never spent a single day behind bars because he died. Or did he? To find out how he pulled it off, just click on this video.